What's up, what's up, what's up, my flying freaky friends, my crackheads, my free flying junkies. Got the needle hanging out your arm. I know how you feel. It's all good. It's a cracker coming at you. No addition that cracker sauce. Today we're going to talk about Pine Mountain. Now, let's just throw one more thing out there. Let's talk about some positivity. You know, let's help each other out. A lot of negative stuff going on in the world today. I want everybody to go a little higher, a little farther. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to talk about a little Pine Mountain via Tom Truax. On that note, he's going to help you out. He's going to get you far, baby, far. So he recently replied to a post from Criss about Pine Mountain weather, and I thought it was brilliant. I thought it was beautiful, and I just wanted to add a little visualization from Google Earth. So it was pretty much verbatim from Tom Truax. I'm going to read his post and try to help out a little Google Earth visualization. I'm definitely not an expert on this place. I've only flown here a couple times a year for like a decade on my hang glider. Never got further than the desert. Never got out to the I-14. Couldn't connect out here. It's the crux of the flight, I think. But plenty of people have big flights all over the place. So let's chat about it. Let's see what's going on. So here we go. We got Pine Mountain right here. Let's talk about a couple big flights first. Let's talk about a little history. And I'm gonna put and to see more under this video. I'm gonna put a link to Truax. Has a lot of logs about this, including the history of Pine Mountain and some of the flights that were done out of there. So if you want to check those out in more details, the history is an awesome read. And checking out those other flights in details, way cool too. So from Pine Mountain right here, we have lots of big flights that have happened. In 1981 is when Truax pioneered this with a few other people, and they started going for it. 1982, Ronnie Gruel was the first one to reach the Ventura Beach, maybe further down here. But he was the first one to reach the beach from Pine Mountain. 1984, Truax had a 105-mile flight. The first SoCal 100 out of Pine Mountain, out to the desert somewhere. In 1986, Truax had a 156-mile flight all the way to Panamint Valley, which is up in here. Lots of flights to Panamint Valley after that. Not a lot, but quite a few by different people. 1988, Truax had a 179-mile flight to Ludlow. Pretty far out there for sure. 1996... actually, I wasn't from Pine Mountain. We'll get back to that later. 1999, Diablo had a 139-mile flight. He was new. He was a hang glider pilot from the 70s. He took up paragliding for a little bit, and he hucked off Pine Mountain and sent it all the way to Trona for 139 miles. And that paragliding record still stands today for Pine Mountain. So you got to get out there and get some. That was 1999. We're in 2017, my friends. Come on. These paragliders aren't shaped like a box anymore. I'm sure you could beat that. You know what I'm saying? At the time, that was the U.S. Foot launch record for paragliding. So Diablo, he didn't stop there. He just kept flying his rigid wing, kept setting records. 2003, 2004, Diablo got to Death Valley up here at Furnace Creek area for around 200 miles. One or two of them were with Hammerhead. Robert Millington was also on those flights. Little John and Hammerhead had also flown to Panamint Valley too, for 156 a few times. Diablo doesn't log his flights, but he says he's had over four 200-mile flights from Pine Mountain. One of them maybe up to 253 miles, all in this Death Valley and beyond area. Pretty freaking amazing. So, anyways, also let's get rid of some of these lines. Let's see. A guy named Larry Brill flew to Arroyo Grande up this way, I believe. He probably went through Cuyama Valley, more like this way, and landed in Arroyo Grande from Pine Mountain. I think on that same day, Truax found a convergence team, took that through the deep Dick Smith Wilderness across this way, flew out to sea past Halama, 5 miles, came back and landed on Lompoc. Pretty amazing. So there you go. You got flights all over the place. Flights back to Santa Barbara are very common. A lot of flights out to, Barstow. Not a lot, but that's a big flight out to Barstow. I think it's around 130 miles. Same with Victorville. You got this Edwards Air Force Base in the middle, so you either got to go below it or above it. So we'll talk about all that in a minute. So let's get to it. Let's see what Truax got to say. He's going to get you further. He's going to get you higher. You know what I'm saying? That's right. Here we go. So Pine Mountain is an omnidirectional flying site. Sits at the juncture of competing air masses. It's high above the marine layer and a stepping stone to the high meadows, which could be good flatland thermal zones. So here's Pine Mountain right here. stepping stone to all these little valleys that converge and later out into the desert for these big convergences that set up out here. We'll zoom in a little crazy there. Midsummer, the inland thermal draw is usually dominant, resulting in too much midday wind from the south from PG. So all this heat back here sucking in that wind and making it often too windy for the paragliders. The wind is feeding the inland thermal draw. You want to pick the days that have a little north in the winds aloft forecast that can resist the inland draw. Most of the long-distance flights from Pine are in the late summer, and as the inland draw starts to relax from mid-August through September. Late spring and early summer, May through mid-June-ish, and also sometimes yield less wind from the south. The flight routes vary depending on the day. You can run the range low SB style, 6 miles to Decision Point, which is this way, right in here. Let's zoom in a little more. Let's see, to Decision Point, somewhere in this zone. Or you could jump the chute, I believe this is the chute, to Thorn Point and back for like 11 miles. But it's not as easy to cross back. Most long-distance flights are on days with a big altitude where you want to think like a buzzard and zigzag along the meandering convergence seams. Lockwood Valley, the high valley meadow over the back, is the main draw and will pull from all directions down low. So most flights, people get up high somewhere on the Pine Mountain ridge, either jump back to the Badlands because the Lockwood Valley Road cruises right through here, or they cut the corner to Guillermo, or even come down the range more, head to Guillermo before getting in this Lockwood Valley. So here's the Lockwood Valley, which heats up and draws wind from all directions. Usually a nice big convergence line sets up and gets you into Fraser Mountain pretty easy. Often back in this way, sometimes more this way. Pinos is back here. So this is usually where the convergence sets up, somewhere out the back of the Lockwood Valley. Crossing the I-5 is the biggest obstacle and more problematic with increasing wind from the south. Going east across the Antelope Valley will vary depending on the day. Some days you'll be on the south side, others on the north. So let's talk about crossing first. So obviously that convergence line gets you into Fraser. Fraser you want to take up with as much altitude as you can, because you can see the I-5 corridor coming right down through here. And this the stable wind from the Santa Clara River is usually filling up this river drainage here. So you get as high as you can at Fraser Mountain, and you're off to the desert, crossing, and now you're just going to be burbling around, hopefully looking for a cloud streak. If it's a blue day, you just gotta keep searching, hopefully run into it. So let's get back to what Truax is saying here. Let's see. Oh, he wants to talk about the desert. All right, so we're out here in the desert. And we got, let's see, Lancaster. Where are we at? Oh, there's Lancaster. Okay. So we got the Highway 14 coming down, something like this. And we got the 138. It's hard to see, but cruising around somewhere in here. So often, most people aim for, I think there's like a cement plant or something somewhere in here. So for Fraser Mountain, they're aiming this way. Truax says that most of the time, the convergence lines or the route will be more to the northeast, as all this stable air fills up over the Libres, here, and spills into the desert. This is the Tehachapi's here. Tehachapi's, many people have run that too, and there's good cloud streets. However, there's the California Aqueduct coming through here somewhere, which is very hard to get across with a car or a body. So it's kind of a deeper line to take this, and I think you get higher from the desert convergences anyways. At least that's what I've seen from people and heard from people, as I've never connected out here myself. Let's see. So let's see. We'll get back to that. So he says, some days you'll be on the north side, often down the middle, but most days you'll need to angle northeast prior to reaching the more stable filling flow coming up the Santa Clara River, about midway between the I-5 and the Highway 14. So somewhere, in this zone here, you'd be angling out up this way. Late in the season, you can sometimes go south of Edwards Air Force Base, but most days you'll be pushed north of the base. So let's cruise over here and we can see the base. So here's the Edwards Air Force Base. I believe the town of Mojave's out here. I believe this is called the Soledad Mine. A lot of people aim for that. Get some thermals out this way. Let's see, what else? So yeah, so often he says later in the season you go south of that, but most of the time you push up north. Willie just had a banger of a flight the other day, getting up into the beginning of the Owens Valley. Let's check that out, which Diablo has also done several times. But Willie just did this 2 days ago. So from Pine Mountain, he cruised up here and up the Owens Valley and landed at Olancha, just south of Lone Pine. Diablo has also landed in Lone Pine with his rigid wing, and he's also landed in Aberdeen right near Big Pine with his rigid wing. Pretty freaking amazing. All right. So let's get back to it. Pine's often not flyable for PGs midday, midsummer due to the south wind, but works better for HGs because they can go faster. Ojai. Now he's going to talk about the Ojai. Let's get back to Ojai. Ojai is often more reliable and soarable on most days, but usually below the big altitude threshold. It's more in the laminar filling flow that feeds the higher terrain to the north. Distance potential is limited unless you're willing to continue over the back behind the topo bluffs into the non-retrievable wilderness, Sespe Wilderness, towards Devil's Heart. You usually reach Fillmore and on occasion connect to the desert along the Santa Clara River route, but the summer river air is relatively cold and heavy, so it's rare to go much past Fillmore. So let's talk about that for a second. So let's zoom in on Ojai out in front of Pine Mountain. It's also a beautiful flight. If you get, 10, 11 grand from Pine Mountain, you can make it to Ojai, land at the high school. Pretty sweet deal. So let's talk about Ojai. Very consistent thermal spot in the summer. Right here we have the continuation of our range. White Ledge is coming down here, and then the 33 with the Ventura River right here is the crossing. There's also the Nut House. Truax pioneered this thing quite a ways back. It's a short but steep hike up off the 33. Fun place to get some little XCs and very convenient to land back of your car. Truax has also had a 111-mile flight doing that OTB from the Topo Bluffs that we just talked about and into the Sespe Wilderness out to, I think, Garlock in the desert. Let's look at that real quick. So big flights are possible. I think he went out this way, got 111 miles from Nut House. He has his own record for his own site. Pretty sweet. There's also been from Oat Mountain. Let's look at that for a second. Oat Mountain in Fillmore, which is like right in here, on like a hurricane kind of day in the south. Gave us some east wind, and he put down a 67-mile flight connecting from Oat Mountain in Fillmore along the Topo Range, through the Santa Barbara Range, over the back of La Cumbre, and connecting to the north end of the Santa Ynez Valley, somewhere up in here for a 67-mile flight, I believe it was. Hammerhead also in the 90s, I believe, 93-ish maybe, sent a banger from Chiefs. It was either Chiefs or Nordhoff, somewhere in the Topo Bluffs. Somewhere in the Topo Range. East, headed west of Santa Barbara with the east wind. Got all the way to San Ynez Peak, over the back, somewhere around the 154, 101 juncture. Got one more for a bump, and flew all the way to Santa Maria for a 79-mile flight. Pretty amazing. So big flights to be had in Ojai also, but more than likely, you're cruising around this valley doing some cool laps. There's also some cool things to do, like here's Chiefs right here. It's fun to launch a Nut House, cruise up here pretty easily. Top land Nut House, have a little snack, take a break, launch, go land back at your car. You know what I'm saying? Way cool, way cool. Good times. Topo Bluffs, you often get your highest here. I've been over 10 grand here, along with many, many others. Not uncommon at all to get super high at the Topo Bluffs. Few people have gone OTB from here. Truax did it in a tandem once, connected with Thorn Point, I believe, on the back. Let's get one more zoom out here. Tandem, he went and connected one more time with Thorn Point, and then squeezed into Lockwood Valley, I believe, somewhere in here. Pretty amazing, pretty deep. There's also been super cool flights from Ojai. Mitch Riley has gotten out this way and out up to the Cuyama Valley. Same thing with Truax. There's a watershed convergence. Let's talk about the couple convergences that happen in Ojai real quick. Truax talks about it right here. Upper Ojai acts like a mini Lockwood Valley. Right here, this zone right here. And draws in from both directions at about 1,500 feet. Let's see, pointing some lines at it. About 1,500 feet, it's a locally high meadow and will often yield to Upper Ojai convergence towards the east end. The bluffs are scenic but can be intimidating midday. Later in the day, you could topland the bluffs, but I wouldn't want to walk down. I think Truax is the only one toplanded up there before. Chief's Launch is a pretty easy top landing spot. We just talked about that a minute ago. Let's see. Ojai is a little inland, but not as much as Marshall. It's influenced by the marine air coming up the Ventura River. Marshall tends to work good late in the day, but Ojai will often work better earlier before the marine air fills in. Most pilots will plug upwind, downhill towards Nordoff. So that's from Chiefs. We used to launch here a lot. We don't have so many LZs available anymore, but the route was go downhill, upwind, and land in Ojai. Pretty cool little flight on most days. She's usually working toward the more stable river air. But I recommend reaching eastbound uphill towards the bluffs away from the filling flow. Topo Bluffs are a detour and racing on a short clock from Santa Barbara, but launching from Chiefs in the summer, the course is limited, so you have plenty of time to poke around and test for max altitude of the bluffs. That's what we were just talking about, this big bluff line here that sits between the Sespe and the Topo range. It can get you some big altitudes. Going OTB from the bluffs likely works on good days, but I've only done it a few times. Remember, that's Truax talking, not me. Because it's into the wilderness, and I don't have the ability to hike out. You could also reach back toward Thorn Point, Pine, or the Watershed Divide convergence, but you'll need a good day to make those connections. So the Watershed Divide convergence, which Truax has pioneered a few times. Matt Hinsey, I think, hooked up on it. Maybe Mitch Riley also. But it sits here behind the White Ledge area. You can see this big ridge line that almost connects to the back of Pine. So this Watershed Divide convergence, all the air spilling uphill, heating up and going up towards that, and the San Ynez Valley, all these mountains heating up and drawing the cool air from the ocean this way, often creates this convergence. You'll see it often marked with clouds on good days, but it is deep. There is a 35-mile fire road connecting the base of Pine Mountain with the back, I think it's the Mono Debris Dam area where the hot springs are, Calientes hot springs. So there is hike out potential, but there's also up to 30-mile hike out potential. But anyways, it's all a good time. And that's Truax's summary of Pine Mountain and the weather. So get your weather on, get your glider tuned up, be positive, my friends, help each other out. Let's go share the love up in the sky. You know what I'm saying? Let's crack a sauce. I'm out. Peace.